What's the good word, Josh? Your boy DKB here. Let's get into our day 2 training camp updates for the New York Jets. Starting off with all of the generic stuff. Haason Reddick still continuing this holdout. He's been placed on the reserve did not report list, and that can't help the negotiations that apparently are not going on. I seen a tweet out there that the New York Jets won't negotiate with him unless he's in the building, which is the entire situation is odd on so many levels. I don't want to dive into it further. It's not really worth the time, but just know that it feels like this wouldn't be a move that is made without two things happening. One, the New York Jets trying to reverse the leverage or at least the pressure of the situation back to Reddick, saying they're willing to, entrench themselves in for this, potential negotiation. And then secondly, that this may actually last as long as I kind of expected, August 8th being the date of one of the first joint practices that I've thrown out there. So we'll see what happens. There's a number of insiders I'm seeing that think that, this should be resolved within a week to 2 week span. But with the New York Jets, you never know. And Joe Douglas is definitely kind of a slow-moving GM when it comes to a lot of these contractual situations outside of the, ones out of the blue, like the JFM extension and different things of that nature that may come about. We did sign a new quarterback as well, Ben Bryant. He was part of the rookie minicamp tryouts, essentially lost in favor of Kobe Suits and then also in favor of Andrew Peasley, who's already on the roster. But it'll be interesting to see kind of how he fits in this QB3 battle with Jordan Travis taking a little bit longer to return from injury than expected. Saleh already mentioned this being a move basically because they want that fourth camp arm. And they were expecting to kind of have Jordan Travis ready to go within this time frame. And the most that he's been doing so far is really just some light individual work and then rehab. But he does have an overlap with Gardner during his time at Cincinnati, former Northwestern kid. So we'll see what exactly he can bring to, the third, fourth string unit for the Jets. Saleh. He's addressed an emphasis on self-inflicted wounds, right? This has been kind of a crux for the New York Jets for a number of years now, where even when we have stretches of solid play, right, maybe an entire half, quarters, it's still been riddled or mired with, pre-snap penalties, something that Saleh has generally been pretty soft on over the course of his tenure. But things are changing now whenever the offensive line specifically is dealing with pre-snap penalties, and I imagine they will expand this to the rest of the unit. But for the offensive line, whenever they do get a false start or any kind of pre-snap penalty, they are being subbed out as a way to hold everyone accountable and kind of curb a lot of those issues. And that leads me into kind of the whole Rodgers conversation and also, kind of the cadence situation that's been discussed as well at a high level by Robert Saleh, where we have 3 new pieces on the offensive line. We have depth pieces that are stepping up while our starters are rehabbing. So it's going to take some time to get down the details of what, how Rodgers is expecting to operate that offense. But it's a good sign that we already have a strategy in place for something like this. And ultimately, I kind of like some of the quotes in the player press conferences and interviews that I'm seeing pop up all over the place. We're getting some good insight into a lot of these relationships between the offense and defense, where it feels like really since the days of, Rex Ryan, I can't really think about a time before then when I was paying attention, but it's always been an offense versus defense thing, and not the obvious that I'm thinking of here, but really that there's always kind of this fine line where with us having defensive specialized head coaches, defense being the priority, offense are always underwhelming. There's a huge kind of unspoken tension that's there, but this version of the New York Jets has really been able to rely on each other. I liked hearing Jermaine Johnson talk about being able to go against Tyron Smith as one of what he views as many others as the best pass protecting tackle in the league, and refining his technique, being able to learn from him, even being able to trade some thoughts and ideas with Tyron for what he could look out for, maybe a better way to go about handling some of the things that he's presenting to him. So all those stories coming through have been great. Now, for what's been happening out there on the field, Aaron Rodgers, he bounced back in a huge way today. Now, practice started off, and I've seen numbers all over the place, but somewhere between a 40 and 60-yard pass to G5, Mr. Garrett Wilson himself, on the first play in 11 versus 11 team drills. Ultimately finished 9 of 12 in team periods, 3 of 4 in 7v7. With the only incompletion there being a DJ Reed pass interference, which we'll kind of touch on a little bit later. The best player from practice that I've heard today, and I'll take this with a grain of salt, was Takk McKinley. 3 sacks. I've heard people mention he's put a vicious rip move out on a number of people. Again, kind of with Allen Lazard. It's not that I want to pump the brakes on the excitement, but from what I heard digging into the situation, he was unblocked on 2 of the plays that he got sacks on. And then we also have to keep in mind that Takk isn't a starter on this line, so he's going up against the second, third string units, which is still impressive anytime you can rack up 3 sacks regardless of the situation. But it is a good sign that he's trending on his way to at least recapturing some of that former first round glory, right? And the Jets will continue to put him in situations where he should be able to find himself at an advantage. And of course, with this defense being as deep as it is, he's always going to be paired up with somebody that'll be a suitable partner for him to work with, right? And be able to kind of depend on not getting the focal point of double teams and different things like that. Xavier Gipson limped off the field for the end of practice today. Didn't really hear anything else notable about anything he did during practice, but that is something for us to keep an eye on, because we're expecting him to be the main the front runner for the return roles, right? So in his absence, it will be kind of exciting to see how Brad Boyer pivots. But still, just coming off the news that mentioned 2 or 3 days ago, where people project him to potentially be an all-pro returner going into 2024. He's not a guy that you want to see missing extended time. And then Allen Lazard, another solid practice by all accounts. Ended another practice with a touchdown from Rodgers on what I heard was essentially a scramble play. He was supposed to be the last read on that play, right? And the chemistry and stuff just happened to culminate and work out well for him. But something that he quoted that caught my attention was he was mentioning with Rodgers, he requires a higher focus, a higher intensity in practice and games especially, and obviously missing him last year for the season, we kind of lost that and didn't really get a chance to establish that. Now, a couple of things there, right? This is another one of those things where if we heard it last year, I think he would have been shredded by the team as a guy that didn't really do anything to help the team in a positive perspective based on all of the negative contributions he also added to the team. But seeing this, consecutive practices where he's had, highlights, positive momentum, and actual impact on the team, it does register as good. Obviously, positive vibes here, right? But to put it in perspective, he only had 49 targets last year in 2023 with all of his problems, right? So I'm trying to pinpoint, if you're projecting him being a 4th receiver in the rotation, him finding 49 targets next year might be his ceiling, right? But if he can make good on the majority of those targets, I think he'll still find himself in a good position. Breece Hall has been chatting quite a bit in the last couple of days. He's mentioned specifically with the NFL Top 100 list dropping, there's not 100 people better than me. Right now, I think they've only released the bottom 40 of the Top 100, and he's not on there. And I would be interested to see if he actually still comes up, right? Garrett Wilson, names like Garrett Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, they've already dropped on this top 100 list, and he was ranked second by, the executives and coaches and things, so he might actually be higher on this list than many people think. But if he's not, still, I love to hear a lot of these, energetic, rash, if you want to call it that, quotes, with him really just embracing what he believes he can be. We heard Salah highlight the 3-down ability. Everybody really knows what it is with him. We just want to get to the regular season and see him rip off a lot of these plays that we're seeing in training camp already, right? DJ Reed, unfortunately, a terrible day for him. He's been on the receiving end of G5, just eating him alive whenever he happened to switch to the other side of the field. Sauce Gardner dominated most of his reps versus G5 today. The offensive line deserves a huge shout out because Wes Schweitzer and Max Mitchell have been in at right guard and right tackle with Morgan Moses and AVT still in rehab. And not only have they been looking comfortable, they've, at least based on the day 2 practice, they've been doing very adequate. Going up against the likes of, Jermaine Johnson when things are flipping, but more so Will McDonald and Michael Clemens. And, these aren't going to be household names or anything, or guys that even had highly productive seasons thus far, but still. Max Mitchell, again, kind of switching positions with him getting work at guard last year. And then Wes Schweitzer bumping up into a starting role with this defense where he's going up against the likes of a Quinnen or a Javon Kinlaw or a Solomon Thomas is huge pluses to me. So you imagine the practice where, coming off this practice where the offense completely had their way with the defense and us missing 2 starters, I couldn't ask for anything better, right? Lecky Fotu, Solomon Thomas, they've continued their run-stopping ability. Lecky Fotu being a name that, on back-to-back days has had plus plays against the run, so excited to see that. Izzy Abanikanda finally makes, his name noticeable in a positive way. He ripped off a huge play in the middle of the defense, a running play, by the way. Stiggers, my guy, almost had himself another pick six. Not another pick six, but almost had himself another pick on this practice. He just couldn't get both feet in bounds, but he's continuing to go out there and be a problem. And I'm starting to see some of the commentary from analysts and people that are just tapping in that maybe we don't replace Reed if they think this is a consistent performance that they can get out of a guy like Stiggers. And regardless of how you feel, it feels like we're going to lose Reed or MC2. And again, love everything Reed has brought, but if we do get a chance to extend MC2, I'm not mad at it, and I do think Stiggers is a guy that can live out on the boundary as well. Sam Iguavine, our linebacker, he's been an underrated name that I actually seen in a few articles over the summer. He got himself a pass breakup. For those that aren't familiar, he's been more of a special teams guy for us since we picked him up last year, but maybe he can show something and fend off some of these younger LBs that are coming in, right? The Chester Rats, the Zaire Barnes that are out there. And then Malik Taylor, big play from Tyrod today. Haven't heard a ton from a lot of the undrafted free agents, specifically on the offensive side of the ball. Lance McCutcheon's another name that I've seen get put up there for being able to make some plays. JBC had another solid day. It wasn't quite as spectacular as yesterday, but that is everything I was able to kind of dig up from day 2. So let me know what you guys think about this particular practice, and I'll catch you guys again. Peace.